this event, we're calling the Poverty Games event, and the purpose of this event is to highlight the money sink over the road here and what impact that's having on not only on local people but on people across the city. Because we've seen social displacement, we've seen the breaking down of a community, we're seeing people with complex needs, the adults with learning disabilities being shoved into a what do I do? Press that?
Yeah, you should go.
Being shoved being shoved into a room around the corner. All of these things are happening, and it's all related to what's going on over here. So the purpose of this event is to highlight these impacts. And we are really privileged to have a guest with us who has brought the poverty torch, the Poverty Olympics torch from Vancouver, which is very symbolically made out of a toilet plunger. And I think that's a marvellous symbol for what's going on here. And so we're really pleased to have Elizabeth Hogg, who's brought the poverty torch from Vancouver. And Elizabeth's going to say a couple of things about Vancouver and what happened there with the Winter Olympics, the impact on local people, and the poverty games that have been running there. Over to you.
Hello. That way. I would just like to say, when the Winter Olympics were in Vancouver, they had the poverty torch was handed to me to bring over to here, and I'm now bringing it up to Glasgow as the Commonwealth Games, which is sister to the Olympics, and hope that all this poverty will end, which it had in Vancouver. It's had quite an impact in Vancouver, and I hope it'll have for the Commonwealth Games here in Glasgow, and I hope also to take it down to London for the big Olympic Games in London. Thank you very much, and I hope it makes an impact, and also the disabled people with learning difficulties, I hope it will help them as well. Thank you very much. Okay?
I'm accepting this from Vancouver, and I'm going to be passing it on to go forward to London for the Olympics in London.
Yeah, the church that was over here swapped in a land deal with council as part of the assembly of the land for the Athletes Village. Got a new piece of land round the corner ready to develop, plus a bonus payment as well. So it was dealt with fairly nicely just across the road here. Made a big profit. Just further up the street, where you can see the cranes and all the construction going on, that was Charles Price's land, bought, we think, speculatively, but Charles says he didn't really know the Games was coming to Glasgow. Quite how he missed that, I'm not sure. But he didn't know the Games was coming to Glasgow. He just picked up a couple of bits of land on the cheap up the road for about £3-4 million, sold them to Glasgow City Council a couple of years later for the grand total of £19 million. £19 million is what he sold that land for. Down the bottom of what was Millerfield Road here, right on the river, our old friend Graham Duffy, that disgraced businessman, bought land there quite a long time ago, in the sort of mid-70s, for about £45,000 and sold it to council, all with no, forcible entry or anything like that. Sold that to council for £5.5 million. So he made around about a 12,000% increase in the value of his land over that period of time. So, if that makes you think that this whole thing called the Commonwealth Games is a big land rort, then you're right, it's a big land rort. That's what's going on here. Because, of course, what happened here behind us in these shops and in the housing buildings that were over here, the residential units that were over here, was none of that. All of those people have been moved on. None of them have any compensation. These are the people who invested in this community, who were making a difference to this community, and they were treated with utter contempt by Glasgow City Council and the Scottish Government. And we're here to say that that's not acceptable. That is not an acceptable way to treat people. And when we see what's going on in sort of dodgy land deals across the road, road, we should be asking a hell of a lot of questions about what's going on in this part of town around the Commonwealth Games. Margaret and Jack are being represented by Mike Daly, a fairly prominent human rights lawyer in Glasgow, and he sent a statement for us to make here. He couldn't be here, he's in London at the moment, so I'll read it out. Mike Daly, Principal Solicitor at Govan Law Centre, says, "When it comes to compulsory purchase orders, it's not fair that there's discriminatory treatment between householders and commercial entities, whether that's in the Commonwealth Games Village or anywhere else in Scotland. Big business and property developers, like I told you across the road, they get shown the red carpet, while members of local communities get a CPO cosh. No real negotiation, just take it or leave it, and we'll CPO you and then evict. I remain convinced that Scotland's CPO practice and procedure is not compliant with the Human Rights Act on a number of grounds, and we're hopeful this will be tested in the ongoing case of Giaconelli versus the UK before the European Court of Human Rights. Communities must be treated fairly and reasonably by public authorities, and their rights should not be overlooked, sidestepped or ridden over for commercial reasons." That's from Mike Daly, Principal Solicitor at Govan Law Centre. And they're the kinds of things we're fighting. We're fighting against the corrupt and unjust use of compulsory purchase orders, and we're against the unjust use of evictions and the abrogation of people's basic rights to live in a home and to live freely. And that's what this is really all about. We're going to walk on now to the Accord Centre, just along the way here, and hear from Save the Accord about the impact that's happening there.
Then they decided again that that wasn't happening. So the people that attend this centre are having to put up with a rented room, one room in a community centre. The council keep going on about the lack of money, and everybody can see the billions and millions are getting spent in this area, and they keep saying they're doing all this for the local people. These are the local people, just like Margaret and her family. Glasgow City Council gave one of their workers, his name is Ronnie Saz, he worked for the Glasgow Regeneration Agency. He had a pension payout of £470,000, but Glasgow City Council believed that he was also due a pat in the back worth £200,000 on top of that, and that was just for doing his job, and I think quite possibly he didn't do his job very well. And Jim Coleman, the councillor, who had promised the people that attend this centre a new centre, said that they felt that he must have deserved that extra £250,000. And I think it's shocking that the most vulnerable of this city and to the East End, where all this money is getting spent, are getting nothing. Their services are being reduced, there's less money getting put in, and they're going to be even more isolated. Shame on Glasgow City Council.